The Treaty of Al-Hudaibiya. By the 6th year after the Hijrah, Islam had spread widely across Arabia. The message was gaining strength, and signs of a great future victory could already be seen. The believers longed to return to the sacred sanctuary in Mecca and restore their right to worship there. This time the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, saw a dream while still in Medina. He and his companions were entering the sacred sanctuary in safety, performing the rites of the lesser pilgrimage, shaving their heads and cutting their hair. When he shared this vision, the companions rejoiced. Their hearts leapt with hope, for it had been 6 years since they had last seen the Kaaba. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, prepared for the journey. He purified his clothes, mounted his camel, and set out with 1,500 Muslims. His noble wife, Salama, may God be pleased with her, was with him. Some desert Arabs, whose faith was weak, stayed behind, making excuses. The Muslims carried no weapons except sheathed swords, for they had no intention of fighting. The Prophet left Ibn Maktoum, may God be pleased with him, in charge of Medina. When the caravan reached Dhul Hulaifa, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, ordered the sacrificial animals to be garlanded, and all the pilgrims donned the white garments of Ihram. A scout was sent ahead and returned with troubling news. Quraysh had gathered a large force to block the Muslims from entering Makkah. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, consulted his companions. They agreed not to fight unless they were prevented from performing pilgrimage. Quraysh meanwhile sent 200 horsemen under Khalid ibn al-Walid to ambush the Muslims during the afternoon prayer. But at that very moment, God revealed the prayer of fear, enabling the Muslims to pray safely in ranks while keeping guard. Khalid missed his chance. The Muslims avoided Khalid's army by taking a rugged path through the rocky hills. When they reached Thaniyat al-Marar, the Prophet's camel suddenly stopped and refused to move. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "I will never be turned away from a path that honors the sanctities of God." He urged the camel, and it rose again. The Muslims marched on until they stopped at a well in the valley of Al-Hudaibiya. The water was scarce, and the companions complained of thirst. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, took an arrow from his quiver, placed it in the well, and by God's will, water gushed forth until all had drunk their fill. While the Muslims were camped, Budayl ibn Warqa from the tribe of Khuzaa visited. His tribe had long been allies of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He asked about the Prophet's intentions. The Prophet replied, "We have not come for war. We seek only to perform the lesser pilgrimage. If Quraysh embrace Islam, they are welcome. If they block our way, we will fight until the command of God is fulfilled." Budayl carried the message back to Quraysh. They sent envoys one after another. Mikraz ibn Hafs came, but the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "This is a treacherous man." He was given the same message and sent away. Then came Hulayz ibn al-Qama. He was struck by the devotion of the Muslims in Ihram and warned Quraysh not to prevent them, lest he break his alliance with them. Finally, Quraysh sent Urwa ibn Mas'ud, a respected leader. During his negotiations, he said, "Muhammad, have you gathered around you people of mixed origins to fight your own people? By God, I think they will abandon you tomorrow." At this, Abu Bakr, may God be pleased with him, stood up angrily to defend the Prophet. Another companion, Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, may God be pleased with him, pushed Urwa's hand away when he reached for the Prophet's beard. But during his stay, Urwa carefully observed the companions. He saw their love and reverence for the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. They never let his ablution water touch the ground. They lowered their voices in his presence. He returned to Quraysh saying, "I have visited emperors, Caesar, Chosroes, and the Negus, But never have I seen a king among his people like Muhammad among his companions. They will never abandon him, accept his offer of peace." As talks dragged on, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, sent Uthman ibn Affan, may God be pleased with him, to Makkah, since his noble clan could protect him. He conveyed the Prophet's message. The Muslims came only for pilgrimage, not war. Quraysh refused and detained him for some time. Quraysh, realizing the Muslims' determination, agreed to peace. The terms were as follows. The Muslims would return this year and come back next year for pilgrimage, staying no more than 3 days in Makkah. They would bring no weapons except sheathed swords. Hostilities would cease for 10 years. Both sides would live in security. If anyone from Quraysh joined Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, without the permission of his guardian, he would be returned. But if one of the Muslims defected to Quraysh, he would not be returned. Any tribe was free to ally with Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, or with Quraysh. When the treaty was written, Ali ibn Abi Talib, may God be pleased with him, began with, "In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate." The Quraysh envoy, Suhail ibn Am, objected and said, "Write instead, in your name, O God." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, agreed. Ali then wrote, "This is what Muhammad, the messenger of God, has agreed with Suhail ibn Am." Suhail protested again, "If we believed you were the messenger of God, we would not be fighting you. Write instead, Muhammad, son of Abdullah." The companions objected, but the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, erased the words himself and agreed. During this, Suhail's son Abu Jandal appeared, chained and beaten, begging for release. The companions were moved to tears, but Suhail insisted, "The treaty is already agreed." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, remained true to his word. He consoled Abu Jandal, saying, "Be patient and trust in God. He will open a way for you and your companions. We cannot break the treaty." Umar ibn al-Khattab, may God be pleased with him, burned with anguish and urged Abu Jandal to kill his father, but Abu Jandal refused. Bound in chains, he was dragged back, but with dignity and faith. When the treaty was signed, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, ordered the companions to slaughter their sacrificial animals and shave their heads. Out of sorrow, they hesitated. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told Salama, may God be pleased with her, of their reluctance. She advised him to lead by example. He sacrificed his camel, shaved his head, and the companions followed at once. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, prayed 3 times for those who shaved their heads and once for those who only cut their hair. It was also at this time that a verse was revealed about pilgrims unable to complete their rites due to illness. "And whosoever among you is ill or has an ailment of the scalp must offer a ransom, either fasting 3 days, feeding 6 poor people, or offering a sacrifice of 1 sheep." Quran 2:196. During this period, some believing women emigrated to Medina and sought refuge with the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Their families demanded their return, but the Prophet refused. God revealed the following verse: "O you who believe, when believing women come to you as emigrants, test them. God knows best their faith. If you find them to be true believers, then do not return them to the disbelievers. They are not lawful for them, nor are the disbelievers lawful for them, but return to the disbelievers what they had spent as dowry. There is no sin on you if you marry them once you give them their due dowry. and hold not to marriage bonds with disbelieving women. Quran 60:10. The believing women were not handed back either because women were not mentioned in the terms of the treaty, only men, or because this verse abrogated any such clause. Soon after, God revealed another verse. O Prophet, when believing women come to you pledging that they will not associate anything with God. Quran 60:12. This verse prohibited Muslim women from marrying disbelieving men. Similarly, Muslim men were commanded to end their marriages with disbelieving wives. In obedience to this command, Umar ibn al-Khattab, may God be pleased with him, divorced 2 wives he had married before Islam. One of them later married Muawiyah, and the other married Safwan ibn Umayyah. The Treaty of Al-Hudaibiya, social and political impact. The treaty was described by God as a clear victory, and indeed it was, for Quraysh had for the first time recognized the Muslims as a legitimate political power in Arabia. By signing the treaty, Quraysh gave up their claim to religious authority and admitted that they had no right to interfere in the religious destiny of the Arabian Peninsula. The Muslims, for their part, were never concerned with seizing property or waging war for its own sake. Their aim was to create an atmosphere of freedom to choose belief. As the Quran states, "Whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve." 18:29. The truce opened the way for Islam to spread more rapidly than ever before. When people could meet and speak freely, many came to know Islam, and most who did so embraced it. In fact, in the 2 years after the treaty, more people entered Islam than in all the years before. When the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, set out to Hudaybiyah, he had 1,400 companions. Just 2 years later, at the Conquest of Makkah, he was accompanied by 10,000. The clause that seemed most painful, that Muslims who fled Makkah without permission would be returned, turned out to be a blessing. Those men, when sent back, did not abandon their faith. Instead, they became centers of influence for Islam within Quraysh itself. One striking example was Abu Basir. He escaped from Quraysh and came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in Medina. Quraysh sent 2 men demanding his return, and the Prophet honored the treaty, handing him over. On the way back, Abu Basir killed one of the guards, and the other fled back to Medina, with Abu Basir following. He told the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, "You fulfilled your obligation, but God has saved me." Realizing he would only be returned again, Abu Basir fled to the coast. There, other oppressed Muslims from Makkah began to join him, including Abu Jandal, may God be pleased with him, until they formed a strong band. They began intercepting Quraysh caravans, causing Quraysh themselves to beg the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to cancel the clause. They pleaded with him, saying, "Send for them. Whoever joins you in Medina will be safe." The Prophet did so, and the group returned willingly. Not every companion understood the wisdom of the treaty at first. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may God be pleased with him, was deeply troubled. He said, "Are you not the true messenger of God?" The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, replied, "Yes." "Are we not upon truth and they upon falsehood?" asked Umar. "Yes," the Prophet replied. "Then why should we accept humiliation in our faith?" Umar asked again. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, calmly reassured him, "I am the messenger of God. I will never disobey him, and he will help me." Umar then asked, "Did you not tell us that we would perform pilgrimage?" The Prophet replied, "Yes. But did I tell you it would be this year?" Umar was silenced, though still troubled in his heart. He went to Abu Bakr, may God be pleased with him, and expressed his feelings. Abu Bakr confirmed the Prophet's words and calmed him, saying, "Hold firmly to his hand. By God, "He is the messenger of God." Soon after, the opening verses of Surah Al-Fath, the chapter of victory, were revealed. "Indeed, we have given you, O Muhammad, a clear victory." Quran 48:1. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, summoned Umar and shared the revelation with him. Umar was overjoyed and deeply regretted his earlier doubts. For the rest of his life, he sought forgiveness through charity, fasting, prayer, and freeing slaves to atone for his earlier words. The early months of the 7th year after the Hijrah saw the conversion of 3 of Quraysh's most formidable men, Amr ibn al-As, Khalid ibn al-Walid, and Uthman ibn Talha. May God be pleased with them all. When they came to Medina, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said with joy, "Quraysh has given us its own blood,